Disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is facing more scrutiny. Federal prosecutors have accused Combs of witness tampering.
They allege that he has been trying to improperly contact victims, witnesses, and other people.
The prosecution telling the judge about attempts they say the rap mogul made from behind bars.
P. Diddy ringing in the new year with a jailhouse meltdown,
Accusing them of not only allegedly targeting their client in an unconstitutional raid of his cell,
as Sean Combs files a $50 million lawsuit.
Sean Diddy Combs' legal troubles have escalated dramatically, with federal prosecutors accusing him of witness tampering while in custody, allegedly using unauthorized phone calls, secret messaging services, and prison phone privileges. These all paint a picture of a powerful figure desperate to control the narrative. These accusations come on top of severe charges, including trafficking and racketeering. Further complicating his fight for bail, these new claims could shatter his hopes for bail and deepen his legal troubles. As his legal team battles to challenge the prosecution's claims, new victims continue to step forward with disturbing allegations. With a high-stakes trial set for May 2025, the case is shaping up to be one of the biggest celebrity scandals in years, as the once untouchable music mogul finds himself at the center of a scandal that could redefine justice for the rich and powerful.
Disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is facing more scrutiny. Federal prosecutors have accused Combs of witness tampering from behind bars. He's in jail. The prosecution filed another motion on Friday urging the judge to not grant bail to the hip-hop star. They say he deployed a, quote, relentless effort to contact potential witnesses, including victims of his abuse, who could provide powerful testimony against him. And he's doing that, again, from behind bars. Now, for context, Combs was arrested, charged in September with trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
Sean Diddy Combs' legal battle has taken another dramatic turn, with prosecutors accusing him of witness tampering while in federal custody. According to court filings, Combs has allegedly used multiple methods, including three-way calls and unauthorized messaging services, to contact potential witnesses and victims. These actions, prosecutors argue, highlight his ongoing influence and potential threat to the judicial process.
The prosecution telling the judge about attempts they say the rap mogul made from behind bars to influence everyone from potential jury to alleged victims.
Who's the boss? Dudes is lost. Don't think cause I'm iced out, I'ma cool off.
This morning, prosecutors leveling new accusations against Sean Diddy Combs, saying he poses a serious risk of danger even from behind bars as he awaits trial. In a court filing late Friday, prosecutors detailing the steps they say Combs is taking while locked up to reach out to prospective witnesses and influence public opinion to affect potential jurors.
The accusations within the prosecution's motion to deny bail are very serious and will be considered very heavily by the judge, because the judge is going to want to ensure that he is not influencing witnesses and or contacting anyone to influence a trial in any way.
Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges of racketeering, transportation to engage in prostitution, and sex trafficking. He denies any wrongdoing.
Another method Combs allegedly used to reach outside contacts was through three-way calls. Prosecutors state that he directed his associates and family members to arrange conversations with individuals not on his approved contact list. This tactic, they argue, allowed him to exert control over witnesses, even while being detained at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn.
Prosecutors pointing to recorded phone calls from jail. They say Combs asked family members to reach out to potential victims and witnesses, urging them to create narratives to influence a jury pool. Allegations that could land Combs in even more trouble.
Diddy's jail calls can be used at trial if they are able to support the prosecution's case in chief. They can also provide grounds for additional criminal charges to be filed against him.
All of this while a Hulu documentary is set to be released Monday.
His name is Shine. Kid is nice.
Called The Honorable Shine, about a young rapper who says he took the rap for a nightclub shooting involving Combs and then girlfriend Jennifer Lopez.
Puffy got acquitted and he got 10 years.
He was betrayed.
I was absolutely set up to be the fall guy.
Moses Shine Levy Barrow, now running for president of Belize, says he was betrayed by Combs.
One of the key allegations is that Combs exploited prison phone privileges by using other inmates' phone access codes, known as PAC numbers. By doing so, he allegedly circumvented official monitoring systems and was able to make unauthorized calls. Prosecutors claim that these calls were intended to intimidate or manipulate witnesses, further justifying their opposition to his bail request.
According to the latest filing, Combs is accused of using other inmates' phone access codes, those are known as PAC numbers, to contact several people from behind bars, including his sons. He's also accused of making three-way calls to get a hold of people and using a third-party service called Contact Me ASAP to contact unauthorized individuals, presumably ASAP. Though much of the prosecutor's claims have been redacted from the court filing, they claim clear interference with the intent to blackmail victims and witnesses into staying quiet. Combs' defense insists the prosecution's case is thin, and the mogul should be released from jail and put under home detention with 24/7 monitoring, plus, quote, near total restrictions on Combs' ability to contact anyone aside from his defense team.
In addition to phone calls, Combs is accused of using a third-party messaging service called Contact Me ASAP. Court documents suggest that he exchanged hundreds of messages through this service, potentially obscuring his communications with attorneys, family members, and other key individuals. Prosecutors contend that these actions violate detention center regulations and demonstrate his continued efforts to influence the case from behind bars.
Here was Diddy telling Conan O'Brien about his, quote, freakouts back in 2002.
Okay, now, we need alcohols.
Right.
Alcohols.
Right. Not just one alcohol.
Alcohols.
Right, just different blend. You need
Blends.
the ladies, you need the booze.
You need some water.
For watering plants? What?
No, I don't know if guys have noticed this, like a lot of ladies drink water at parties. They just, so you have, if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave.
Right.
Gotta keep them there.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little kinky, but
yeah.
Rock with me, but just check it out. You need a lot of heat. A lot of heat. Yeah.
Heat, you mean that physically the place has to be hot?
You don't have no air conditioning.
No air conditioning. No. Why is that?
Heat affects the alcohol, and it also affects, like, everybody gets a little bit more comfortable and loose. Builds up a nice little sweat.
That just sounds disgusting. What are you doing?
Depends on the way you look at it.
Depends. Oh, people start getting gets kind of sassy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you.
We're not laughing now.
Federal prosecutors are now using these allegations as a basis to deny Combs' latest bail request. His legal team proposed a $50 million bail package, complete with house arrest and no internet access. But the government argues that his ability to tamper with witnesses while incarcerated proves that he remains a risk. They claim that even if released under strict conditions, Combs could still use his vast resources to manipulate the legal process.
Okay, so there are bombshells after bombshells in the government's new filing in the Sean Diddy Combs case. Trafficking, racketeering, prostitution case. I don't need to repeat all the allegations. You know what they all are by now. But prosecutors from the Southern District of New York submitted an opposition brief to Sean Combs' motion for bail that they are hoping that this new judge, in this case, Judge Arun Subramanian, will hear. And as we're going to lay out, prosecutors say not only is Sean Combs not entitled to bail, but essentially he shouldn't even get a hearing on this. And remember, Combs is currently in detention at the Metropolitan Detention Center out in Brooklyn, New York, after being denied bail by other judges. The main issues keeping him locked away are that the courts have held that the prosecutors have shown that he is a danger on the outside, he's a potential flight risk. Most notably was evidence put forward that he had been improperly contacting victims and witnesses in this case. And as we discussed on previous sidebars, Sean Combs' counsel has denied all this. They've indicated that all of those conversations were not done with the intent to engage in witness tampering or obstruction, and even, at least they say, one witness had contacted Combs, not the other way around. Well, the government has come out with new evidence of its own to justify pretrial detention. And now, let me just read you this from the beginning of their brief. They say, while attempting to evade law enforcement monitoring, the defendant has, among other things, orchestrated social media campaigns that are, in his own words, aimed at tainting the jury pool, made efforts to publicly leak materials he views as helpful to his case, and contacted witnesses through third parties?
Combs's defense team has strongly refuted these claims, calling them exaggerated and misleading. Attorney Bradford Cohen has argued that using third-party calls and outside contacts is common among inmates and does not necessarily indicate wrongdoing. He also questioned the credibility of the prosecution's evidence, stating that no clear proof of direct threats or blackmail has been presented.
This happens all the time in like every single case. They only make a big deal about it in this case. So the third-party calling, when I can tell you in my 30 years, 28 years of practice, third-party calling has been done in probably 90% of the cases that I have. In fact, sometimes third-party calling to me. So what they would do is they'd get one of their friends on the line, and then that friend would then third-party me in. And I always have to tell them, hey, this is an attorney-client privilege. You got a third party on the line. And when you have a third party on the line, anything we say is not attorney-client privilege.
The accusations of witness tampering add another layer of legal challenges to Combs's case, which already includes charges of trafficking, racketeering, and coercion. The federal investigation, launched in September 2024, has uncovered allegations spanning decades, with multiple victims coming forward to accuse Combs of orchestrating exploitative events. Some of these claims involve minors at the time of the alleged incidents, making the case even more severe.
Trial currently scheduled for May 5th, 2025. Now, so much of this case has been in the shadows, right? And that we don't know exactly what the evidence is per se, who the witnesses will be, the identity of the alleged victims, all of the key events, times, locations. We may get more information in the months and the weeks leading up to the trial, but right now, we got something big we got to talk about. So Sean Combs' attorneys have filed a letter, filed it yesterday, we're talking about it today, where they are asking the court to order the government to electronically produce some very key evidence in this case. What? The videos of the freak-offs. You remember what these are? The prosecutors allege that Combs would intimidate, threaten, and lure women into extended sex acts with male sex workers using force, threats, or coercion. The freak-offs that Combs filmed and recorded these freak-offs. Well, the reason the defense wants this electronically produced, the reason they want copies of this, and they need the court to step in, is because under the current protective order that has been put forward in this case regarding how evidence will be viewed and disseminated, the video evidence is available for inspection only.
As the trial date approaches, media attention has intensified, with documentaries and investigative reports shedding light on both the allegations and Combs's past controversies. One such documentary features the testimony of a Michigan inmate who claims that Combs assaulted him in the 1990s. This case, which was initially dismissed, has now been reinstated, adding further scrutiny to Combs's history.
A Michigan inmate has been awarded $100 million in his civil lawsuit against infamous music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The judgment was issued to 51-year-old Derek Lee Cardello Smith yesterday. He accuses Diddy of drugging and actually assaulting him at a party in Detroit back in 1997. Combs did not appear for the hearing in that case yesterday. The judge made a default judgment and also issued a temporary restraining order against Combs. Cardello Smith is currently serving time in Muskegon Heights for an unrelated conviction, and some are calling this the largest judgment awarded to a current inmate in state history. Now, Diddy's attorney is responding to our request for comment, writing in part, Mr. Combs has never heard of him, let alone been served with any lawsuit. Mr. Combs looks forward to having this judgment swiftly dismissed.
In the latest legal battle, Combs's attorneys have accused federal prosecutors of violating his constitutional rights during a search of his jail cell. His legal team claims that investigators unlawfully accessed and photographed privileged legal notes during an October 2024 contraband sweep. They argue that this action compromised his defense and are demanding a full hearing on the matter.
A new big development around Diddy as we're following this case very closely here on Live Now from Fox, as Diddy's lawyers say the feds raided his jail cell and seized a bunch of privileged material. So an interesting one, to say the least, about this. I want to put up some posts here from former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani about this, saying Diddy's lawyers are claiming that it violates his Fourth Amendment right. However, inmates don't have Fourth Amendment expectation of privacy in prison, so that argument is weak. Guards can search his cell without probable cause or a warrant. So a big development there in terms of this. Privileged material, different. The feds usually have a taint or dirty team of agents who aren't working on the case to conduct these searches. That way, if they see privileged materials, the clean team won't be disqualified from the case. It goes on to say as well, the prosecutors have reason to believe Diddy is obstructing justice from the prison by contacting witnesses through intermediaries. They made the same argument during his bail hearing. I think they have evidence to back it up. All right, as we continue on, witness tampering also falls under the crime fraud exemption to attorney-client privilege.
Prosecutors, however, have dismissed these accusations, stating that the search was routine and unrelated to Combs's case. They insist that any privileged materials were handled by a separate filter team to ensure attorney-client confidentiality was not breached. The judge has yet to rule on whether a hearing will be granted, but if the defense's claims hold merit, it could impact the prosecution's case.
Well, the defense is going on the offense here, and they filed a motion alleging these constitutional violations, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth Amendment violations, and outrageous government conduct. And they're trying to argue, and Judge Subramanian is actually going to hold a hearing on this. He's the presiding judge in the case, whether the government did anything wrong. And of course, prosecutors, on the other hand, are going to go on the offensive themselves. And they're saying that Diddy is trying to obstruct justice, tamper with witnesses, trying to dissuade them either by blackmailing or threatening them, or even outright bribing them to change their testimony. This is a case that's going to come down entirely to the testimony of those witnesses and victims. So to the extent that they go sideways or do a 180 or change their stories at trial, that's really the only chance that Diddy's defense team has here.
I want to ask you about how the feds go about this, because the searching there of the jail cell for Diddy, they don't necessarily need a warrant. How does that typically happen?
So when you're in custody, really your Fourth Amendment privilege goes out the window. Those rights, those constitutional rights to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, it requires an expectation of privacy. You just don't have that in prison. So the clearest example I like to give is, if you're in custody, your phone calls can and will be recorded. Obviously, you and I, out as free people, we have rights that prevent that from happening. You need a warrant, you need a wiretap or something like that. You don't need that when you're in prison.
Another major point of contention is the handling of video evidence in the case. Prosecutors claim that several freak-off tapes serve as crucial evidence of Combs's alleged trafficking and coercion. His defense team, however, argues that the videos prove his innocence, depicting consensual encounters rather than forced interactions.
But this is even more important. Combs' lawyers argue that we need these videos because they prove our client didn't commit the crimes he's charged with. In their letter, they write, quote, "Having reviewed these videos, it is now abundantly clear that they confirm Mr. Combs' innocence and that their full exculpatory value cannot be investigated and used unless they are electronically produced. The 9 videos at issue are the so-called freak-off tapes with victim 1 that the government has repeatedly referenced, causing wild speculation in the media. Contrary to what the government has led this court and the public to believe, the so-called freak-offs were private sexual activity between fully consenting adults in a long-term relationship. Like many Americans in the privacy of their own bedrooms, they sometimes film their activity. These videos unambiguously show that the person alleged in the indictment to be victim 1 not only consented, but thoroughly enjoyed herself. And we believe, by the way, victim 1 to be Cassandra Ventura. This is Diddy's ex, who first filed that initial sexual assault lawsuit against Combs.
Judge Aaron Subramanian recently ruled that Combs's legal team will not be granted electronic copies of the videos, citing privacy concerns. Instead, the defense is only allowed to review the footage at designated locations provided by the prosecution. The defense has pushed back, arguing that this restriction hinders their ability to properly analyze and prepare their case.
By no means do I think this is any good for the state if it is the government, if it is exactly what they're saying that it is, if it depicts everything that they're saying, if the defense is right and it depicts these things. By no means is it good for the state, for the government. The question really becomes, how are they going to use those tapes? Are they using the tapes? Obviously, she's going to have to testify that she was under physical and mental abuse, and that's why she participated in these things. Whether or not a jury believes that is going to be a very big leap. But do I think that's the only evidence they have? Probably not. If the government is the government in the Southern District of New York, I can't imagine this is what they're hanging their hat on if it's what the defense describes. It's like one of those things that when you have a weakness in a case, the government has to decide how they're going to use that. My guess is they're going to use it to show that there were workers, that these sex workers were paid. I would imagine that they have the sex workers that are in the video to come in and describe what was going on or what happened before they went on tape, whether or not they had drugs or alcohol or anything else, whether or not Cassie had drugs or alcohol, whether or not there was a discussion between Sean Combs and Cassie before the tape started. So
Right.
I think that the tape is going to be one portion of it, but the testimony of either the sex workers that were in the video and or Cassie is going to kind of tie it together. That's my guess.
Adding to the controversy, the judge also addressed claims that Combs's attorneys violated a protective order by publicly disclosing descriptions of the videos. Prosecutors argued that these details, meant for attorneys' eyes only, were improperly shared, potentially jeopardizing victim privacy. The judge sided with the prosecution, ordering the original letter to be removed from court records, though he allowed a redacted version to be refiled. Meanwhile, new accusers continue to come forward, further complicating Combs's legal troubles. A woman identified as Nicole has alleged that she was drugged and sexually assaulted by Combs multiple times over a 4-year relationship. She claims that in one instance, he forcibly shoved pills down her throat, causing her to lose consciousness and wake up in a trashed hotel room.
As Sean Combs files a $50 million lawsuit, more. Apparently, baby oil rearing its ugly head again. Listen.
A Diddy accuser using the pseudonym Nicole, who says she had a 4-year relationship with Sean Combs, says she last saw him in July of 2024. Nicole claims Combs shoved 2 pills down her throat, shortly after which she passed out. She says she woke up to their hotel room destroyed, surrounded by empty bottles of baby oil and wine, food containers, towels, and a hookah. Nicole says she immediately left with no word from Combs until receiving an invitation to see him in New York, the day before his arrest.
Wow, Sydney Sumner, what is she saying? And how does baby oil keep popping up throughout this investigation?
We don't know about the baby oil, Nancy, but this woman, Nicole, filed an anonymous lawsuit as a Jane Doe back last year, and she claims that over 4 years, Diddy repeatedly drugged her while she was drugged over their relationship, and in one instance, she even became pregnant with his child. She claims at that point, an associate of Diddy, a woman who she never really identified, called her and berated her to have an abortion to get rid of this baby.
The recurring mention of baby oil in various allegations has become a disturbing theme in the case. Multiple victims have described scenes where floors were left slippery with oil, and Combs's former assistants have corroborated these details. Prosecutors argue that these consistencies point to a long-standing pattern of abuse and control over his victims. Financial implications are also mounting, with victims potentially targeting Combs's assets in civil lawsuits. His Miami mansion, recently paid off in full, was initially offered as collateral for bail but was rejected by the court. Legal experts suggest that this property, along with others, may soon become the subject of forfeiture or civil claims from accusers seeking restitution.
Next tonight here, new and disturbing accusations against Sean Diddy Combs. A Texas attorney tonight says he now represents 120 alleged victims, men and women, whose allegations span more than 30 years. The accounts of the alleged victims have not been fully vetted, but their accusations involve the kind of drug-fueled alleged sexual assaults described in a dozen civil lawsuits and the criminal case against Combs. Combs has pleaded not guilty to federal charges. His attorney tonight saying Combs emphatically denies any claim that he's sexually abused anyone.
As Combs remains detained and prepares for trial in May 2025, the case continues to evolve with new developments. Prosecutors and defense attorneys are engaged in an intense legal battle over evidence, witness testimony, and the portrayal of Combs's past behavior. With public interest at an all-time high, the outcome of this case could set a significant precedent in how powerful figures are held accountable for alleged crimes. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more updates, and hit that bell so you never miss a thing.